So when you're writing your edTPA, what are they really looking for? What are they hoping that you're going to write and they're going to score you high on? And can I tell you that simply? Well, that's the goal of this video. So writing the edTPA basically in a nugget. So let me explain to you very quickly in this video how you might do that. So the general pattern of all the questions is essentially this. There's some element that they're asking for. They want you to provide some detail about that element and or evidence, and then you have to explain the connection. That how part's really important because oftentimes that connection might vary just a little bit between one question to another. So for instance, in rubric 2, it asks for the students' needs and strengths and how you supported them. And then in rubric 3, it asks you to add a research piece to that, or literature piece to that. And then you have to explain the connection between all of those elements. So for example, one of the elements asked for would be one of your teaching strategies. It can be a task that you assign, a material that you use, a strategy that you teach your student, or a support you give your student. Modeling, guiding with your fingers, what have you. You're going to provide detail of what that element is. So what is your task in detail? What is the support that you're providing? What's the detail of that? How did you write that out in your lesson plan? The next thing might be an element of your student. So perhaps it's a need they have, or a strength they have, or an interest that they have. So what's the detail of that? What is that strength exactly? And what evidence do you have that to say that that strength exists? What did you observe, or what did you find on their baseline or some assessment or classwork that they did? And then a learning objective is almost always one of the elements that you need to connect in the question. So it could be the overall learning goal. It can be one of your lesson objectives, or it could be a sub-skill within a lesson objective. But again, in detail, what is the particular goal that you're reaching for? And then maybe some other element X. So I talked about research or theory. So maybe there's a, they're asking you to connect to research. So you have to find a piece of research. And I talk about how to do that in rubric 3 in that video, the quick and dirty one, or the course. And you need to provide detail of that research. Okay, and then, so the detail is going to come from your lesson plans, but then your evidence might come from scores or observations that you've made on your student. And then here's the other connecting part. So you provide all the elements, however many dots they want you to connect. So it's not just one of these. You might be connecting 3 or 4 elements. You have detail about the element or evidence of the element, and then you're going to explain the connection. You're going to provide detail on how your support helps the student to be able to meet the learning objective. And that how piece is your justification. To give you an example, I'll give you a counterexample in a minute. So to give you an example, supposing that your student has a need to keep the steps of addition in order, and the learning objective is to learn the steps of addition. And so your support is to provide a 1, 2, 3 signal to the student, right? And the reason why you know they have that need is because you observed on the baseline that they mixed up the steps, or they left off this step, or you observed them doing it in a task. And so your connection is going to be explained across all of those. So you're going to say, my modeling 1, 2, 3 by holding up my fingers allowed the student to recall what step they were on, so they could focus on the step and not the recall of which step they were on. Pretty obvious, right? Pretty simple. But being able to state it, maybe not quite so simple, because we don't write that justification in our lesson plans as teachers. And so this is sort of a new task requirement that edTPA is asking of you. Another thing I want you to notice is that very often in the commentary, it will ask you, how does your support help the student demonstrate or participate in learning? So in this case, this comes from rubric 4 on communication, but it's asking, how does your support help? That's a very typical aspect. But if you know in the rubric for the same rubric 4, for a level 4, it says the candidate provides examples of specific plan supports for the focused learner's use of the communication skill to participate in learning tasks and or demonstrate learning. There's no how in there. So if you did what the SPEC Ed handbook tells you to do, which is to go to the rubric to understand what you're supposed to provide, and you paid more attention to that than the wording on the commentary, you might feel like, well, I said what the examples are of my plan support. These were very good supports for the student's communication skill to help them participate in learning. I'm good, I'm done. And you wouldn't be done, because even though this says level 4, the reviewer is going to look at this and say, without that how component, I can't give them a score of 4. So I hope you found this helpful. I'll be making these, I make these videos now once a week. I've been sort of experimenting with this, but now I'm very committed, and people are responding that they like what I'm producing and that it's helping them. I have, if you look in this description below, there's some other materials that I have that you can obtain if you need more support. Some are free, some are paid for, and please like and share and all the rest, blah, 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 so other people can find me should you find this to be helpful. See you around at the next one.